Welcome back to Nighttime History. Today we'll be exploring the fascinating world of record keeping in a 14th century town hall. Thank you for joining us tonight. Sit back and relax as we dive deep into the meticulous world of medieval administration, where scribes worked by candlelight to preserve the daily life of their communities in ink and parchment. You step through the heavy wooden doors of the town hall just as the morning bells ring across the square. The cool stone floors echo with your footsteps as you enter this centre of civic life. Listen to the gentle scratching of quills on parchment that fills the main chamber. The air carries the distinct scent of oak gall ink mixed with beeswax from the candles that illuminate the scribe's work. Watch as the head scribe arrives, his dark wool robe rustling as he moves between the tall writing desks. He carries a ring of iron keys that jangle softly with each step. These keys unlock the various chests and cupboards where the town's precious documents rest. You notice how he runs his fingers along the spines of leather-bound volumes, checking that each record book remains in its proper place from the night before. The town hall serves as the beating heart of civic administration. Here in this stone building, every significant transaction, every dispute, every birth and death finds its way onto parchment. The walls themselves seem to absorb centuries of decisions and declarations. You can almost feel the weight of responsibility that fills these rooms. Move closer to observe the main writing chamber. 4 tall desks stand positioned to catch the best light from the narrow windows. Each desk slopes at a gentle angle, allowing the scribes to work without hunching over their documents. Small grooves carved into the wood hold quills and inkhorns steady. Beneath each desk you spot wooden boxes containing supplies like spare nibs, knife blades for sharpening quills, and small pots of pounce powder. The scribes begin arriving one by one. They wear simple tunics and soft leather shoes that make little noise on the stone floors. Watch how each scribe prepares their workspace with practiced movements. First, they check their inkhorn, adding a few drops of wine or vinegar if the ink has thickened overnight. Then they select their quills, running fingers along the feathers to test for flexibility. You notice the apprentice scribe in the corner, barely 16 years old, carefully practicing his letter forms on a wax tablet. The wax can be smoothed and reused, saving precious parchment for official documents. His hand moves slowly but steadily, forming each letter with deliberate care. The master scribe occasionally glances over, nodding approval or pointing out where a letter needs adjustment. The preparation of writing materials forms a crucial part of the daily routine. Observe how the senior scribe mixes fresh ink in a large pot near the fireplace. He crushes oak galls with a pestle, the woody spheres crumbling into powder. To this, he adds iron sulfate, which turns the mixture dark. Arabic gum goes in next, helping the ink flow smoothly and adhere to parchment. The mixture must steep for several days, stirred regularly to achieve the perfect consistency. Feel the texture of the parchment sheets stacked on the side table. Made from specially treated animal skins, usually sheep or calf, each sheet costs more than a labourer earns in a week. The parchment makers have scraped away all hair and flesh, stretched the skin on frames, and polished it with pumice stones until it achieves an almost velvet smoothness. The finest parchment, called vellum, comes from young calves and feels as soft as silk beneath your fingertips. The town's records divide into several categories, each requiring different levels of formality and care. Property deeds demand the finest parchment and most elaborate script. Court proceedings fill volumes bound in sturdy leather covers. Daily administrative matters might be noted on lesser quality parchment or even paper, which merchants have recently begun importing from distant lands. Watch the head scribe unlock the iron-bound chest containing the town charter. This document, written on the finest vellum and sealed with wax impressions, grants the town its rights and privileges. He handles it with reverence, checking for any signs of damage from moisture or pests. Such foundational documents receive protection through storage in multiple layers, wrapped in linen cloth and placed within wooden boxes inside the locked chest. The organisation system appears complex to modern eyes, yet follows a practical logic. Records group by type and date, with finding aids written on separate sheets. These early indexes list documents by the names of parties involved or by subject matter. You see one scribe consulting such a list now, running his finger down entries written in abbreviated Latin, searching for a specific land transfer from 3 years past. Listen to the steady rhythm of writing that fills the chamber. Each scribe develops their own pace, some quick and efficient, others slow and methodical. The scratch of quills creates an almost musical pattern, punctuated by the occasional sound of a knife trimming a worn nib, or the soft thud of a completed page being set aside to dry. The scribes must master several different scripts. For important documents, they use a formal bookhand with carefully formed letters. Daily records might employ a faster cursive script. Legal documents require specific abbreviations and formulaic phrases that save both time and expensive parchment. You watch one scribe switch between scripts as he copies different types of documents, his hand adjusting automatically to each style's requirements. Witness how natural light determines the work schedule. As clouds pass over the sun, scribes pause in their writing, waiting for better illumination. On dark winter days, work might stop entirely by mid-afternoon. Candles provide some light, but the smoke can damage documents, and the flickering flame makes precise lettering difficult. The positioning of desks near windows reflects centuries of experience in maximizing available daylight. The town hall maintains several types of ongoing records. The court rolls document legal proceedings, recording pleas, testimonies, and judgments. These rolls consist of parchment sheets sewn together end to end, sometimes stretching 20 feet or more when fully unrolled. Property records track land ownership and transfers, crucial in an age when land represents the primary form of wealth. Tax rolls list each household's assessment and payment status. You observe a scribe preparing to record a property transaction. 2 merchants stand before his desk, having agreed to transfer ownership of a shop on the main square. The scribe first writes a draft on a wax tablet, ensuring all details are correct. The buyers and sellers must state their agreement 3 times, a ritual that prevents later claims of coercion or misunderstanding. Once satisfied, the scribe transfers the text to parchment, using his finest script for this permanent record. The language of records reflects the international nature of medieval administration. Latin remains the primary language for formal documents, ensuring that educated people across Europe can read them. However, the vernacular increasingly appears in certain contexts. You might hear the local language used for witness testimonies or merchant agreements, with scribes providing Latin summaries for official purposes. Notice the variety of seals and stamps arranged on a shelf near the head scribe's desk. These tools authenticate documents and prevent forgery. The town seal, featuring the community's coat of arms, marks the most important records. Individual merchants and nobles also deposit their personal seals here when conducting official business. The sealing wax must be heated to just the right temperature, not so hot that it damages the parchment, yet warm enough to take a clear impression. The storage of completed records requires constant attention. Parchment attracts pests and suffers from moisture damage. You see the apprentice sprinkling dried herbs between stored documents, their scent designed to repel insects. Cedar chips and lavender serve this purpose well. The storage rooms maintain careful ventilation to prevent mold while avoiding drafts that might scatter loose papers. Security measures protect these valuable records from theft or tampering. Iron locks secure not just the main doors, but individual chests and cupboards. The head scribe carries the primary keys, but duplicate sets exist, divided among trusted town officials to prevent any single person from having complete access. Night watchmen patrol the building, and their footsteps on the floors above remind you that these documents represent the town's legal and financial foundation. Observe how scribes handle corrections and amendments. Unlike modern documents, medieval records cannot simply be discarded and rewritten when errors occur. Parchment costs too much to waste. Instead, scribes carefully scrape away incorrect text with a knife blade, a process requiring steady hands to avoid creating holes. For minor errors, they might add corrections between lines or in margins, marking these additions with special symbols to indicate their validity. The physical toll of scribal work becomes apparent as the day progresses. Watch how scribes periodically flex their fingers and rotate their wrists to prevent cramping. The constant gripping of quills creates calluses on fingers, while hours of leaning over documents strain backs and necks. Some scribes develop poor eyesight from years of working in dim light, squinting at tiny letters. Let's pause here for a moment, as we've explored the morning routines and basic operations of our medieval town hall. Before we continue our journey through the rest of the scribe's day, I'd love to invite you to join our community of nighttime travellers. If you're enjoying this gentle exploration of medieval record keeping, please consider subscribing to support our channel and turning on notifications so you never miss our nightly historical journeys. And if you're finding this content helpful for relaxation or sleep, a simple like on this video helps us create more soothing historical content. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Share where you're settling in to sleep tonight and what time zone you're listening from. Are you tucked into bed, perhaps sitting in a comfortable chair, or maybe listening while you wind down from your day? Now, let's return to our 14th century town hall and discover what the afternoon brings for these dedicated record keepers. The afternoon sun shifts through the narrow windows as you continue exploring this medieval centre of administration. Notice how the light creates long shadows across the parchment pages, and the scribes adjust their positions to maintain clear visibility of their work. The gentle sounds of the town square filter through the thick walls, creating a peaceful backdrop to the concentrated activity within. You watch as petitioners begin arriving for the afternoon session. Merchants clutch leather pouches containing contracts that need official recording. A widow stands quietly near the door, waiting to register her husband's death and secure her inheritance rights. Two neighbours have come to document the resolution of a boundary dispute that has troubled them for months. Each person who enters brings their own story that will soon become part of the town's permanent record. The process of recording testimony requires special skills. Observe how one scribe positions himself at a lower desk, specifically designed for taking depositions. He must write quickly while people speak, capturing not just the basic facts, but the essential legal elements of their statements. His shorthand system uses common abbreviations and symbols that allow him to keep pace with natural speech. Later, he will transform these notes into formal Latin entries in the official registers. Feel the weight of responsibility that fills the room as important documents receive their official seals. The town clerk emerges from his private chamber, carrying the great seal of the community. This heavy brass matrix bears the town's arms and motto, carved in reverse so the impression reads correctly. He heats dark red wax over a small flame, testing its temperature with practiced expertise. Too hot and the wax will run, blurring the image. Too cool and it won't properly adhere to the parchment. The actual sealing ceremony follows ancient protocols. The clerk reads the document aloud one final time, ensuring all parties agree to its contents. Witnesses step forward to add their marks or signatures. Then, with deliberate ceremony, the clerk pours the heated wax onto the parchment and presses the seal firmly into place. The resulting impression will last centuries, a tangible link between past and future. You notice how different types of documents require different storage methods. Single sheets might be rolled and tied with ribbon, then placed in designated pigeonholes along the wall. Bound volumes rest on shelves, their spines marked with identifying symbols. The most precious documents, including royal charters and papal bulls, rest in specially constructed boxes lined with soft fabric to prevent abrasion. The apprentice system ensures continuity of knowledge across generations. Watch the young trainee as he practices cutting quills under his master's watchful eye. The angle of the cut determines how the quill will write, whether it produces thick, bold strokes or fine, delicate lines. He learns to recognize which feathers make the best quills, typically the flight feathers of geese or swans. The process requires patience and precision that only comes through years of repetition. Listen to the careful instruction as the master scribe teaches proper ink preparation. The proportions must be exact. Too much iron and the ink will eat through parchment over time. Too little and it will fade. The apprentice learns to test ink quality by making sample marks on scraps of parchment, observing how the ink flows and dries. This knowledge, passed down through generations, ensures that documents remain legible for centuries to come. The financial records of the town reveal the complexity of medieval administration. Tax collectors submit their rolls showing payments from each household and business. These documents use a sophisticated system of marks and tallies that allow quick verification of amounts. You see columns of Roman numerals with various symbols indicating payment status, exemptions and penalties. The precision required prevents disputes and ensures fair collection of revenues needed for town maintenance and defence. Observe how the scribes handle multilingual documentation. A travelling merchant from the German territories presents a contract written in his native language. The town scribe must accurately translate this into Latin for the official record while preserving the original meaning and legal intent. This requires not just linguistic skill, but deep understanding of different legal traditions and commercial practices across Europe. The afternoon brings a special challenge as the town council prepares to issue new market regulations. Multiple scribes work together to create copies of these rules for posting in public places. Each copy must be identical in content while allowing for slight variations in script and layout. You watch them develop an efficient system where one scribe reads aloud while others write, pausing periodically to ensure accuracy across all versions. Notice the care taken with dating systems. Medieval documents might use various methods to mark time, from regnal years of kings to religious feast days. The scribes maintain conversion tables that help them translate between different dating systems. A document might be dated in the year of our Lord 1387, being the 10th year of the reign of King Richard, on the feast of St. Michael the Archangel. Such precision helps future readers place events in proper chronological context. The preservation battle against time never ends. You see scribes carefully checking older documents for signs of deterioration. Fading ink receives careful retouching with fresh gall ink mixed to match the original shade. Tears in parchment get mended using thin strips of matching material and fish-based glue that won't damage the surrounding area. This constant maintenance ensures that records remain usable for future generations. Watch as the scribes prepare for special ceremonial documents. A wealthy merchant has endowed a new chapel and wishes to record his donation formally. Such documents demand the finest materials and most elaborate script. The scribe selects pristine white vellum and prepares special coloured inks. Red ink made from vermilion or minium will highlight important passages. The initial letters might receive touches of gold leaf applied with honey and garlic juice as adhesive. The legal formulae used in documents follow centuries of tradition. Each type of transaction requires specific phrases that courts recognize as valid. You hear the scribe murmuring these formulae as he writes, the Latin words flowing in familiar patterns. Know all men by these presents begins a typical deed, followed by precisely structured clauses that leave no room for ambiguity. This standardization helps prevent future disputes over interpretation. Security concerns extend beyond physical locks and keys. The scribes employ various techniques to prevent forgery and alteration. They might write crucial numbers in both numerals and words, making changes difficult. Contracts often include distinctive flourishes or marks that would be hard to replicate. Some documents feature text written across folds or seals, so any attempt to open and reseal them would be obvious. As afternoon progresses toward evening, you observe the careful procedures for closing the office. Each scribe must account for their materials, returning unused parchment to storage and securing their ink supplies. Completed documents go into designated storage areas based on their type and importance. The head scribe makes a final inspection, ensuring nothing has been left unsecured that might attract thieves or rodents. The human side of record keeping becomes evident in marginal notes and comments. While copying a lengthy tax roll, one scribe has drawn a small sketch of a bird in the margin, perhaps inspired by birdsong from the square outside. Another has added a personal prayer at the end of a document, asking divine blessing on his work. These tiny humanizing touches remind you that behind every official record stands a real person with hopes, fears, and moments of creativity. You notice the accumulated wisdom represented in the reference materials scattered throughout the office. Formula books provide templates for common documents. Legal precedent books record important decisions that guide current practice. Collections of sample letters show proper ways to address various officials. This library of practical knowledge helps scribes work efficiently while maintaining high standards of accuracy and formality. The changing seasons bring different challenges to the scriptorium. In winter, scribes must balance the need for warmth from the fireplace against the danger of sparks reaching precious documents. Summer heat can make ink dry too quickly on the quill, requiring constant dipping and cleaning. Spring dampness threatens stored parchments with mould, while autumn brings mice seeking warm nesting places among the records. Observe how the town hall serves as a training ground for literacy in the broader community. Young men from merchant families might spend time here learning basic writing skills they'll need for their future businesses. The scribes provide this instruction partly as a civic duty, recognizing that a literate merchant class strengthens the entire town's prosperity. These informal lessons plant seeds of learning that will gradually spread throughout society. The international connections of medieval record keeping become clear as you examine documents from foreign correspondence. Letters arrive from partner towns across Europe, written in various hands and languages. The scribes must decipher different writing styles and regional variations in letter forms. This cosmopolitan aspect of their work connects this small town hall to a vast network of administrative centres stretching from London to Venice. Watch the careful ritual of preparing documents for long-term storage. The scribes create multiple copies of crucial records, storing them in different locations as insurance against loss. They wrap completed volumes in oiled cloth to protect against moisture. Metal clasps and corner pieces protect the binding from wear. Each step in this preservation process reflects hard-won knowledge about how documents survive through centuries. The economic value of accurate records becomes apparent through various transactions. Property deeds establish ownership worth many years of income. Trade agreements document partnerships that span continents. Court records preserve precedents that shape future legal decisions. The scribes understand that their careful work today creates the foundation for tomorrow's prosperity and justice. You observe the subtle hierarchies within the scriptorium. Senior scribes occupy the best positions near windows and claim the finest materials for important documents. Junior scribes handle routine copying tasks and basic record keeping. The apprentices perform support tasks like preparing ink and maintaining quills. This structured system ensures quality control while providing advancement paths for dedicated workers. The spiritual dimension of medieval life permeates even secular record keeping. Documents often begin with invocations of divine blessing. Scribes might cross themselves before starting particularly important texts. Religious feast days provide chronological markers throughout the records. This integration of faith and administration reflects a worldview where spiritual and temporal matters intertwine naturally. Notice how the physical arrangement of the town hall reflects its various functions. Public areas near the entrance allow citizens to submit documents and make inquiries. Private chambers provide secure spaces for sensitive negotiations. Storage rooms in the basement protect archived records from fire, while upper floors house active administrative offices. Each space serves its specific purpose in the complex machinery of civic governance. The tools of the trade reveal medieval ingenuity. Penknives knives with multiple blades allow scribes to perform various cutting and scraping tasks. Rulers made from hardwood or brass ensure straight lines on important documents. Pricking wheels create guide dots for ruling lines evenly across parchment. These specialized implements, often passed down through generations, become extensions of the scribe's skilled hands. As evening approaches, you see the scribes performing their final tasks. They cover inkwells to prevent drying overnight. Completed documents go into temporary storage pending final review. Work surfaces get cleaned of any parchment scraps or ink spots. This end-of-day routine ensures that tomorrow's work can begin efficiently without time lost to preparation. The legacy of medieval record keeping surrounds you in this quiet moment. These carefully preserved documents will outlive their creators by centuries. property deeds written today will establish ownership claims for generations unborn. Court records will provide precedents for future legal systems. Tax rolls will offer historians glimpses into daily life that would otherwise vanish from memory. Stand for a moment in the fading light and appreciate the profound importance of this work. Without these patient scribes and their meticulous records, the continuity of civilization itself would fray and break. Laws would become matters of memory and dispute. Property rights would depend on force rather than documentation. The accumulated wisdom of governance would dissipate with each generation. The town hall begins to quiet as scribes complete their day's labour. You hear the soft sounds of closing books, the gentle clink of ink pots being sealed, the whisper of parchment being carefully stored. The head scribe makes his final rounds, checking locks and ensuring all candles are properly extinguished. His footsteps echo in the gathering darkness as centuries of tradition guide his movements. Tomorrow will bring new challenges and documents to create. Birth certificates will welcome new citizens into the community. Marriage contracts will unite families and fortunes. Business agreements will launch ventures that may transform the town's economy. Death records will mark the passing of familiar faces. Through it all, the scribes will continue their patient work, weaving the fabric of history one carefully formed letter at a time. As darkness finally claims the town hall, you step back into the evening air. The building stands solid and reassuring, a fortress of memory in an ever-changing world. Inside, the records rest secure in their chests and cupboards, waiting to tell their stories to future generations. The work of today becomes the history of tomorrow, preserved through the dedicated effort of these medieval record keepers. Thank you for joining us on this gentle journey through a 14th century town hall. If you enjoyed our work and are still awake, please check out our other medieval content. And if you've fallen asleep, please relax and enjoy the campfire.